Hi guys, welcome back to Intense. Hope you're doing well with everything that's going on in the world right now. It's been a while, so welcome back to another video. If the title of this video didn't give it away already, we're covering the top 10 BMW M cars ever made. So with that being said, let's buckle in and get on with it. And starting things off in the brightest shade of orange you'll ever find in a BMW, we have the E90 M3 GTS. Featuring a V8 for the first time in the M3's history, the E90 took the game straight to the Mercedes C63, packing cylinder for cylinder in what many would argue was a far better driver's machine, even in base spec compared to the Mercedes. And the GTS package, well, that just turned things up a notch. With a roll cage, less weight and adjustable aero, as well as only 135 cars produced, it was definitely much more rarer than your garden variety Porsche 997 GT3 of the time, a car that it was most closely aimed at. But it was still 150 kilograms heavier than the Porsche, so nice try BMW. I suggest you speak to your colleagues from Weissach next time for some better dieting advice. But with 444 horsepower of naturally aspirated V8 goodness from its 4.4 litre engine, in what was possibly the best chassis the boys from the M Division could tune up at the time, the M3 GTS takes the number 10 spot. And coming in at number 9 from the Chris Bangle era, yes that era, we have the E86 Z4 M Coupe. This was one of the last BMWs to feature hydraulic steering, not to mention the steering rack itself was taken from the E46 BMW M3, and so were the brakes. In fact, the whole car was a bit of a Frankenstein creation, even taking the S54 inline 6 from the E46 M3. You could even couple it with a manual 6-speed transmission. So I don't know about you, but that sounds like a serious driving machine to me. Going up against the 987 Porsche Cayman of the time, what the Z4M lacked in outright handling ability, it sure made up for in power, with 345 horsepower to be exact, compared to the Porsche's 276, and it was even much better looking. It even had a double bubble roof. The E86 was the last proper Z4M to be produced, and prices have been creeping up steadily on the second-hand market for the last couple of years, making it an instant modern classic. Chris Bangle, I tip my hat to you on this one. And at number 8 we have the E24 M6, which came out in 1984 and was nicknamed the Sharknose thanks to that eager-looking front-end design. With a smooth 3.5 litre straight 6 pumping out 286 horsepower, it was good for a top speed of 150 miles an hour. With its long wheelbase and 4-seater capability, not to mention its 1500 kilogram curb weight, for a GT car, made it one of the sportiest cruisers you could find, and this shape of BMW is probably one of the most uncommon ones you'd see on the road these days. It was no stranger to the racetrack either, competing successfully in various touring car championships, from Europe to Australia to Japan. It took on the likes of the Ford Sierra Cosworth and Ford Mustang and Chevrolet Camaro, and it won. Dress it up with a deep front air dam, throw on some wide fender flares and a JPS livery, and just listen to this thing roar. It almost makes you want to take up smoking. This kind of smoking. With as much power as a Ferrari 360, and with all the practicality of taking the kids to school, the E30 M5 powers its way into the number 7 spot. With a 4.9 litre V8, the first V8 for a BMW M car, it pumped out 400 horsepower through a manual 6-speed transmission. Its V8 was also shared with the stunning Z8 sports car, and featured dry sump lubrication, much like supercar, which helped keep the center of gravity low since the bulk of the engine could sit further down in the chassis. This super saloon was for the executive who needed to get between business meetings as fast as possible, while looking like he was driving a standard E39 5 Series thanks to those sleeper looks. And you know what they say, time is money, and if you spend it wisely, you could just about smoke any other sports car on the road at the time in one of these while dressed up in your expensive Gucci suit. With rear-wheel drive and a manual gearbox, the E39 M5 is probably the sweet spot by being more of a driver's car in the super saloon segment of the early 2000s. Even Chris Harris hailed it as one of the all-time great road cars, so the E39 definitely deserves a place as one of the best BMW M cars ever made. It was sleek, it was gorgeous, it was even nicknamed the Batmobile in racing form. The E9 3.0 CSL takes the number 6 spot. This homologation special road racing machine was built so that BMW could go racing in the European Touring Car Championship. It was also the first ever BMW fettled by M Division. And what a badass way to kickstart a brand than with a homologation special. Am I right? With more wings than a dragonfly? No wonder he spent most of his time in the air. Eating Ford Escorts for breakfast, the E9 CSL packed a 3 litre straight 6, producing 203 horsepower. Now I know what you're thinking. My 3-cylinder Ford Fiesta makes the same amount of power. Lame. But tell me, does your Ford Fiesta weigh less than 1100 kilograms? And did it come with its rear wing found in the boot? Because it was illegal for it to be mounted from the factory? Yeah, I didn't think so. In 2015, BMW even built a concept car called the CSL Homage that, you guessed it, paid tribute to the E9 CSL. And coming in at number 5 is the other 5 series of choice. See what I did there? Featuring a 3.5 liter straight 6 producing a respectable 290 horsepower for 1985, the E28 BMW M5 was the fastest production sedan in the world at the time, with a top speed of 156 miles an hour. Only a handful of other cars of the day produced more power. Like, I don't know, maybe the Lamborghini Countach? So this car was already in some pretty rare air. And speaking of rare, it's also one of the rarest BMWs ever made, with around 2100 cars produced between 1985 and 1988. E28 BMW M5 proved that a 4-door sedan could handle just as well as any other sports car and could definitely be your one-car garage if you wanted to. Not to mention, it's also the BMW of choice for ex-racing driver and motoring journalist Tiff Needell, who just admires the way the car looks and performs. And coming in at number 4, with its accentuated boot lip spoiler and OCD-inducing single-sided air intake on its front bumper, the E46 M3 CSL was the swan song of the E46 M3 generation. And many would argue it was also the height of the classic BMW straight-six engine, with only 1,383 cars produced. Propelled by a 3.2-liter straight-six producing 355 horsepower and weighing in at 1,300 kilograms, the E46 M3 CSL stayed true to its name, Coupe Sport Lightweight. And just how did it achieve that weight figure? With a very measured use of carbon fiber, of course. Featuring a full carbon fiber roof, carbon fiber front bumper, and even a carbon fiber airbox, which is where that hole in the front bumper feeds air into, by the way. The weight savings weren't just limited to those areas though, with a further 50 kilograms coming out of the interior. With lightweight seats and door panels, and no navigation, no radio, and no aircon, and even cardboard used in the boot liner. Yes, you heard me right. Cardboard! Also known as removable honeycomb pepper composite panel, as the part name is officially known. Some would say the Achilles heel of the whole package is BMW's SMG automatic gearbox. Although there is a proper manual conversion available, that could easily take the E46 M3 CSL to the epitome of the ultimate driving machine. And bringing up the first of the podium positions is the E82 BMW M1 with a 3-liter twin turbocharged engine producing 335 horsepower to the rear wheels via a 6-speed manual transmission. The BMW M1 sought out to be a reincarnation of the classic BMWs of the past. With its short wheelbase and square stance, thanks to those deliciously enlarged fender flares, which house some serious rubber, 2 4/5 sections at the front and 2 6/5 sections at the rear, the M1 could make for some serious sideways action. With its rear subframe, differential and brakes from an E90 M3, some would argue the whole car is basically an E90 M3 shrink-wrapped onto a 1 Series body. And what's not to like about that? The M1 proved that BMW could still build a rambunctious little powerhouse in the modern day, which made it an instant modern classic from the day it came out. And taking home the silver is the E30 BMW M3 in Sport Evolution, guys, no less. The E30 BMW M3 was the first mass-market BMW M product with a production run of 17,000 cars. It put BMW's M Division on the map by tearing it up on the racetrack and becoming a cult hero. The E30 BMW M3 was built as a homologation special, so BMW could go Group A racing in Australian, German, European, and World Touring Car Championships, where it cleaned up with more than 1,400 wins between 1987 and 1992, with numerous drivers and constructors championships along the way. And the road-going E30 M3 meant business, sharing only the hood, roof, and doors with the standard E30. Everything else was motorsport-focused, including its S14 designated 2-liter 4-cylinder, which was built completely by M Division and pushed out 200 horsepower to move its 1,200 kilogram figure. And Sport Evolution, well, that was the most motorsport-focused version of the bunch, pushing things up to 220 horsepower. And with an adjustable rear wing, which you could put into Monza and Nürburgring settings, like, does that not signal racing intentions right there? All E30s featured wonderfully boxy styling and flared arches, which housed some wider tires, all of which helped it become a BMW icon. And bringing up number 1, drum roll please. It's the BMW M1, built as an intended homologation special and designed by Lamborghini. That's right, it doesn't look like a cheese wedge for nothing. Only 399 cars were produced, making it the rarest M car of them all. With a 3.5-liter straight-six engine pumping 277 horsepower and a curb weight of 1,300 kilograms, it was the first BMW to wear the // M badge and was a true supercar unlike anything else BMW had ever produced. The car was originally built as a homologation special, so that BMW could go racing in the World Sports Car Championship. But by the time the car went into production, the rules had changed. This was due to the delays caused by Lamborghini going bankrupt halfway during the development phase, and BMW needing to find a new group of people to finish the project. So what do you do with a car that was built specifically for racing but no longer had a series to compete in? Well, you invent your own racing series for it, of course. So BMW created the Pro Car series, which even followed Formula 1 as a support category. The Pro Car version of the M1 was turbocharged and could produce a fire-spitting 1000 horsepower on full boost, while weighing a smidge over 1000 kilos. The BMW M1 was built from the ground up to be the most exotic BMW M car ever, and as a statement of their racing intentions applied for the road, and for these reasons that makes it the #1 BMW M car ever made. So there you go, that was my list of the top 10 BMW M cars ever made. If you enjoyed this video, definitely give it a like, maybe hit the subscribe button while you're down there as well, and maybe leave a comment if there's a top 10 list that you'd like to see. Until then, I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.